Hey everybody, and welcome to Epic Everyday, our weekday podcast for busy, overwhelmed Christians who want to get out of that state and move into freedom and abundance and peace. I'm Liz Ferricks, and this is my husband, Evan.
Greetings.
And we're so glad that you guys are here with us on this ever so lovely Friday.
Yep. It is lovely. That was sarcasm, though, I think.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit. You know how I feel about Fridays.
I do.
This week we are talking about money. And as you guys know, we work our way through the CSCs, so they are being calm, surrendered, centered, connected, and complete. So today, since it's Friday, we're talking about being complete. Being complete is being, utilizing your entire self, not being fragmented anyway, using your whole soul, being fully engaged with what's actually going on around you versus some fantasy world or, having rose-colored glasses or what would be the alternative, the negative version of rose-colored glasses.
I was going to say red, but that's roses. I don't know. A frowny face emoji on your face all the time.
Whatever the alternative is.
It's, you're right. Being in the real world, the actual real world.
Right.
And not in some version of some fantasy world.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of that is this thing that we advocate all the time, which is self-examination.
Yeah.
We need to examine our financial state. There could be emotions around our financial state that prevent us from actually diving in too deep and poking around in there too much. I know I definitely experienced that. The kind of it'll take care of itself. It's too complicated, or I'd rather not know. I mean, we're not being complete there. We're
Right.
avoiding at that point.
Well, and it's usually because of either past baggage or emotional compound interest.
Yeah.
Either it's, and by emotional compound interest, I mean, you've been stressing about it for so long that you're carrying 500 days worth of stress over this one thing.
Yeah.
Versus.
Sure. Or something we picked up that the only way you deal with money is to worry about it from a parent
right.
or an adult or something as a child.
Yeah. Well, and especially if you live in a situation where money is tight growing up, and if your caretakers are in scarcity where they're there's never enough, there's never going to be enough, you pick that up.
Yeah. Or could have grown up wealthy and just figured that money does grow on trees and there doesn't have to be a plan. I mean,
right.
So there's a number of situations, but yeah, getting that inner logic sorted out is, I think, so important.
Yeah, totally. And I think if you're not present with your money, I mean, a huge part of being complete is being present, being in this moment rather than being in the past or in the future. And if you're not present with your money, it is so stressful. It is so stressful either to be carrying the baggage of the past, that scarcity mode or whatever crazy ideas you were raised with. Mm-hmm. And then on the other hand, being stuck in the future and being oh my gosh, how are we going to pay for whatever? I remember this one time I stressed for a solid, we moved into this house. I don't know. Our daughter was probably almost a year old. Not quite. I think she was 9 months old.
Yeah.
Something like that. Anyway, we moved into this house. One of the things that they put on the, what do you call that? The little
mortgage
report.
Oh, the home inspection?
Yes. On the inspection report was that our furnace was super old and it was going to need replaced. And I stressed about that for a solid, what was it, 6 or 7 years where it was just
kept working.
Right.
Yeah,
well, it kept working, but it was
it's gonna break.
Already 20 years old when we moved in, and I knew it was going to break, and I knew there was no way we were going to be able to afford a new furnace. So every year when we started the furnace, it was this oh no, what if the furnace breaks? What are we going to do? I don't know how we're going to handle it.
Sure.
There's no way we can afford it. What are we going to do? And then the Lord just totally ended up working things out where we were part of a grant program and it pretty much paid for our furnace.
Yeah.
It, it was one of those, and we didn't even seek it out. Somebody came to our door and was like, "Hey, did you know you're eligible for this grant
And we're
program?"
like, I had no idea. Tell me
We're
more about
like,
this.
yeah. So there's just
There's
so
a
many things that where I have stressed and stressed and stressed, and then God has just swooped in right when it became a problem and fixed the problem. So living in the future doesn't really
I
work.
see. Yeah. And understanding where that stress is coming from, that can help disperse some of that before, because we don't want to have it just fester for years
Right.
after years after years. I mean, but I think an experience like that helps see, oh, God is taking care of this. But then
Right.
before we get to that point, while we're in that worrying stuff, and before we've seen the hand of God like just swoop down and solve the problem, we can start to be like, why am I so worried about this money thing? What am I supposed to do?
Right. And as always, I'm going to advocate using EFT or tapping as you're working through that process. And that has so helped me. Um, it's just been amazing because as I've done that, I mean, this last year, we had a major problem with our car, and I was shocked at myself because it
It
was
was
going to
really
be,
different, wasn't it?
yeah, it was really different. And it was like $1,500 car bill, no idea where the money's coming from. And I was not stressed at all. Like, I was just like, okay, Lord, you're going to take care of this somehow because you've always taken care of us. And I have no idea how, but
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what you do.
Yeah, that was really different. And it was neat to see God's hand moving there. And then also, as we've been more intentional about our budget, we've had some other more minor things come up, and the money's been in the budget to pay for the little car thing that we've got to
Right.
pay for. Whereas before, we'd be scrambling at $100 repair and be like,
That's
oh, what are we
true.
going to do? I mean, we have a car repairs item in our budget, but we never actually put money in it. But now it was there. And,
Yeah.
so, yeah, there's a couple different angles to come at the piece that there can be around this
Right.
topic.
Yeah. Well, and kind of going back to that, whatever your childhood beliefs are, um, I think it's called your reticular activation system, your RAS, which is basically if I tell you right now to look around the room and find everything that's black, count it all out, and then close your eyes and tell me which things in the room are yellow. Like, everybody's going to go,
Right.
I was not paying attention to that. And that's your reticular activation system. That's your brain sensitizing to look for whatever it is you're supposed to be seeing. And so your childhood beliefs predispose you to find whatever it is, confirm that belief that, like, oh, okay, if I believe that I'm in scarcity mode, oh, yep, I'm going to see things that constantly reaffirm that belief that, yes, I am in scarcity mode. But if I see myself as a trust fund child and I believe that God is going to take care of me and that there's no need to worry, I'm going to see those things that, confirm that belief. So it's so important to have your mindset right
Yeah,
to deal with that past baggage and let go of it.
absolutely. And sometimes it's not always that drastic either. I think we always want to that's some of the stuff that the inventory will stir up is like, am I doing this? And that's why we want to examine ourselves. But
Right.
even just, because I definitely have my money hangups, but I don't feel like they're different than yours. But just the a big lesson for me, I think, was just becoming an adult and starting to make, like, not feeling ready to make some of the big money decisions, like which apartment to rent, but then doing it anyway and letting yourself go through the trial and error process and seeing yourself as an
Yeah.
adult, because and again, that comes back to seeing yourself the way God sees you. But
Having room for mistakes.
yeah, and keep forging ahead. And so I think that's something we can all relate with, right? This is where I was going with that. Like, I think we've all at some point, if you're adults listening to this, got to some point where you had to start making some of these decisions on your own. And I think it's too tempting to figure out kind of the basics of it and stop. But what we're calling for is keep forging ahead into that uncomfortable area, right? That area of more of the inner landscape stuff of like, okay, I figured out how to pay my bills and I'm making enough money maybe. But then like the emotional stuff, whatever. I mean, I'm paying my bills. Who
Right.
cares about that? But keep stepping ahead like you had to do when you were moving out for the first time or in college or went away to boarding school or wherever you went where it was like, oh, I've got, this money. I've got to figure out what to do with it. If I spend it all on Pop-Tarts and Doritos, it's going to get sick and I'm not going to have enough money to buy textbooks or whatever,
Yeah.
Does that make any sense? Like, we want to
No.
keep going. It doesn't. I know sometimes I get off on
Sorry,
a thing.
I'm just teasing.
No.
We just had such totally different upbringings that I never remember going through that. But
Yeah, well, probably not, because you kind of did that as a kid.
right.
And that's what I was saying. Like, on whichever side of the coin you're on, it's the same path. We've got to keep moving ahead and embracing who God made us to be. And that's people who don't freak out about money.
Right, yeah, because money is just a thing. There's really no point in freaking out over it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
I
we
mean,
can
that
make
was
good
so
decisions.
freeing.
Right.
Right. Yeah, that God, I love in James 1:5 where it says, if anyone lacks wisdom, he should ask God who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to him. Like God promises that if we don't know what to do about a situation, if we ask, he gives us wisdom. He doesn't tell us how dumb we are for needing wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Like he doesn't find fault with us for being like, geez, you really should know this by now,
Yeah, no. It's, money or how to deal with this relationship or this job or being a parent or
Right.
wanting to get married, dealing with your parents as you get to be, you're an adult and they're an adult now. What's that relationship supposed to be like? There's any number of things that
Right.
God's like, I've got you. I'm going to help you figure this out. So I think that's the encouragement is keep moving forward into that uncomfortable stuff. Don't just be like, okay, I guess I've got the basics figured out. That's good enough for me. I'm tired of striving and learning
Yeah.
and moving forward because it's just, why? I mean, I figured this out.
Right.
I can do this
and
till I'm 80.
right. It takes work, but it is so worth it. I mean, even just one of the things we've been doing lately is reading through Tony Robbins' book, Unshakable. And
For the first time.
yes, and it's a new book, but it's been super fun.
Well, knowing you could have read it 20 times by now.
That's true.
came
But it
out-
just came out last year. So anyway, but just learning some of the rules, because investment is something that's never been one of our strong points because we've just been like, we'll deal with that later.
It was just a big confusing, who knows what. It was just so nebulous and unknowable, it felt like.
Right. So then getting information to kind of be like, well, how does this work? What are the basics of this has been so helpful.
Yeah. It just explains it in a way that makes it make a little bit more sense. And it's less
Right.
scary then.
Exactly. It pulls a lot of the stress out of the equation.
Yeah. Because not everybody has a job where their employer takes care of it. And he even said in the book, if your employer is taking care of your retirement fund, your 401k, there's some questions to ask.
Right.
And you could actually, you're not powerless over that either. You could actually influence the way that money is being managed. And it could benefit your employer and you if
Right.
you ask the right questions. And that was just like, what?
Hopefully, as you're going through your week, you can think about what are some of your emotional hangups with money. Are they mostly based in the past or are they mostly based in the future? And then
I would write them down, right? Make a
Yeah.
little note, pray about it, pray for wisdom to even understand what you're supposed to write down. Maybe talk to some of your close friends or your spouse or your parents or somebody that you trust. Get some information and then prayerfully consider what to do next.
right.
Is that sort of what you're going to say?
Yeah, definitely. And as always, if you have emotional hangups, do something like tapping to help work through and take away that emotional compound interest so that you can then just come at it with a calm, non-stressed out perspective. Because
Yeah.
like we always say, if you're stressed out about something, your critical thinking, your reasoning, your creativity, it's all shut down. You can't think straight about it.
And I think all too often, the stuff that, like, say something happens and it really seems to affect you, like, so there's that thing, but it probably affected you strongly because of some sort of a backlog of
Right.
stuff, I don't think it's almost impossible to not have a backlog when it comes to money because I don't know, maybe some people have excellent money educations, but it seems like we all are kind of in the dark about it,
Yeah.
and we have to educate ourselves.
For sure. All right. Well, thank you so much to all the people that have been sharing. We really appreciate it. If you do find this podcast helpful, please share it with 2 or 3 of your friends. We would love to hear, how you guys are doing with the CSCs, if they're helping you, what's going on with your money, all that stuff. You can join our Facebook group as a way to talk about all that stuff with other listeners and with us. Next week, we are going to be talking about overwhelm with time.
Yeah.
Because I think that is such a huge part of that feeling too busy, feeling overwhelmed and stressed.
And
It's
maybe-
because time is short.
Yeah. And maybe by the end of the week, we'll figure out how to get 25 hours in the day. That's what we need, right?
Oh, yeah,
extra
totally.
hour.
Yeah, that's exactly the solution right there, babe.
Yep. Well, come on back. We'll figure it out together.
All right. We love you guys, and we are praying for you. Have a lovely weekend.
That's right. See you.